I'm Neelima Chakra. I coach professionals to increase their capacity and effectiveness, be visible, valued, and rewarded, and be the leaders they want to be. I bring to you the fifth episode of the series Leading with Purpose, where I talk to Ravi Khokhar. You get to see up close and personal how his creativity, interest in sports, and curiosity come together to foster innovation, agility, and growth mindset in his work. Enjoy. In today's episode of Leading with Purpose, I host Ravi Khokhar. Ravi is a true tech enthusiast who thrives in the dynamic New York area. When he's not diving deep into the technology advancements, he's a proud cheerleader for his two amazing kids, with the eldest about to embark on the exciting college journey. Ravi unwinds by jamming good music and hitting the court for some volleyball or tennis. Professionally, Ravi heads Capgemini's cloud business globally within the financial services division. Ravi brings continued passion for using technology to drive innovation and create significant business value. Welcome, Ravi. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Neelima, for having me.
All right, shall we get started?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's start with a rapid fire round, just for people to get to know you. Respond as quickly as you can and preferably within one word.
Okay.
Right. So what did you want to be when you were a child?
Pilot.
Pilot. Okay. What is the one word that your family would use to describe you?
Mr. Reliable.
All right. What is the one word that your team would use to describe you?
Crazy high standards perfectionist.
Okay. What are you most passionate about outside of work?
It's a very long list. Sports, music, painting, gardening, the list goes on.
Okay. All right. That's nice. Name one person you're inspired by and why.
Currently, for last many years, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft.
Okay. And why?
He has just shown every possible leadership um, word that you can think of. Resilience, turning around. And this book, Hit FI Refresh, is amazing. And you see the trajectory of Microsoft as an organization. It has rediscovered itself. It has made itself very meaningful, relevant, changed the game. Even today with generative AI, almost every dimension of how a leader can turn around such a large organization in such a short amount of time, it's absolutely inspiring.
Yeah, he's creating quite a lot of ripples. Thank you for that. All right, Ravi. So the industry that you are a part of, it changes so rapidly. And how do you manage that, keep pace with it? How do you deal with it?
First, I'm absolutely privileged to be in an industry which is changing so rapidly because it makes life fun every single day. Every single day you get to learn something new. So by definition, if you want to stay relevant, you have to keep upskilling yourself. That's just the part of the industry we are in. But besides that, I always say that you are not going to get everything, you're not going to learn everything. So be grounded in the basics, which is, in old times, we used to say the castles have moat, which is like a body of water around it. It's very secured inside it. I focus on what is my moat, and then everyone has the journey almost like a T. You're a mile, 2 mile broad in your understanding of topics, and that keeps changing. But there are a few which you go really a few mile deep, and that obviously evolves over time. So my way of keeping pace with the change is to find my depth of T's and keep working on them.
Mm.
It's very hard to be curious. It may sound strange, but it's very hard to be curious. I tell people around me that the sports you play, like I play tennis, and it matters how much you understand the game. Like a ball is 56 grams and a tennis racket is 95 inches. The strings are made up of what is called Technifiber, NRG, it's like polystrings. I find value in these small details, like these minute details, and it's fun to know them. And somehow they actually help you become relevant and not worry about, new technology getting launched, new paradigm being introduced. So as far as you are grounded in these nitty-gritty basics, you're automatically creating an information flow around you, and then that keeps you relevant. Um, and again, I tell this to many people, always have a curiosity of a 5 years old. It doesn't have to be your field. If you drive a car, get to know the car. If you're playing a sport, get to know the sport. If you're interacting with someone, get to know the person behind the face they are. That makes life fun.
True. Curiosity is a trait. It is an individual trait rather than, yes, it can be more or less about a certain subject, but it is essentially a trait. So I'm hearing you say, know everything, but choose what you want to go deep in and stay curious.
Yep.
All right. As you heading such a large, business, what do you think is the latest or current biggest leadership challenge?
The latest leadership challenge or the current leadership, well, there are leadership challenges. And honestly, they have not changed for a very long time. People may feel they have. So, in my perspective, the biggest one in front of me is usually when I look at leaders in my own team and the one that I work with and the one I get inspired from, I usually come across people who put almost a mask in at the workplace and then they take off the mask when they go home. To me, the challenging part is to not have a mask. And whatever you are, you have to be that at both the places, either at work or at home or with your friends or with your family. If you are able to do that, it sounds so simple, but if somebody is able to do that, it does wonders to their leadership style, makes them authentic, makes them predictable. They are always doing what they will do every single time in a situation they are, because their mask doesn't change. They're their authentic self. So in many ways, the one of the important leadership challenges today is for leaders to be authentic, no matter what they do. It's not about skills. It's not about how many people you inspire. They will inspire people if they are authentic self. They will make a big impact if people look up to them and predict what they will do in a certain situation. Because half of the time we second guess our leadership. If we can make it easier for our teams to not worry about what my leader will say on Tuesday evening versus Thursday morning, life becomes much easier. So to me, biggest leadership challenge today is behaviorally, if we don't have a mask, whatever we are everywhere the same.
And what do you think makes it a challenge?
You know, many things makes it a challenge. What will people talk about me? I have these four core values of my organization, but I feel very different about them. So let me pretend, let me act, let me enact to be A, B, C, and D. There are factors where, my team knows more than me, so I have to pretend I know more than them. There are so many factors. It keeps changing with different situations. But the ones that I have seen personally don't put a mask, and they are just they are, and they have no shame, no regret in accepting what they know or what they don't know. They're pretty humble about saying, "Can you please tell me? I don't know this." Those are the leaders that have gone places, done very well in turning around businesses, in inspiring people. So it's always about what people will think about me. How can I tell them that I don't know this? Well, the fear of creating suboptimal perception in most cases creates this mask. And I remind everybody, and even including myself, every morning, there's no mask. There is no suboptimal perspective, because whatever it is, it's reality. Let it be out in the open.
And that reminder is how you deal with it?
Well, first, you surround yourself with a lot of smart people who are far more smarter than you, people who know far more things than you, but then there is a complementary balance. And as far as you're working with them, you are your castle has a moat. You have strong leaders with you, you have very diverse leaders with you, but you are not intimidated by it. You actually consider that as a strength, a true strength. So they come to you because you have some tea, and you go to them because they have their tea. To be comfortable with that and to encourage people to be their natural self, that's what I try to do every morning. Some days I do well, some days I don't, but the days I don't, I know that I'm not doing well. um, so it's very difficult to describe. It's easier to see in action. So whatever and by the way, there's a downside to it. So um, when you are a dad at home, you have a certain behavior. You at least have to keep some of that away to be your natural self, because you're dealing with your kids, and then it changes a little bit. So keep reminding yourself that now I'm not at work. I'm on a tennis court. Now I'm not at a tennis court. I am with my son in kindergarten. It's hard, but it has worked well for me. I really enjoy being truly what I am everywhere, regardless of whether it is workplace, in front of our CEO, in front of a board, or in front of my daughter in a college.
That's that. It's very interesting and very true. Even science tells that when we don't have that difference between one mask versus the other, our professional and personal masks, when they match, or the less divergent they are, there is lesser stress in life as well.
Absolutely.
And I find it very valuable advice, to remember the hat that you're wearing at a particular time. That's very good advice. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So my next question is, life is never smooth. In a dynamic world, setbacks are a given. How do you personally deal with setbacks?
Well, first of all, we get so many setbacks. We are pursuing a deal, we lose the deal. That's a setback. But the question really is, what is a setback? Losing a deal may be a setback for you. Sometimes it's not a setback for me. Uh, Not controlling the journey of a deal is a setback for me, even before the actual results come out. So those who work with me know this very well. I'm very obsessed about the journey, very, very obsessed about it. How we conduct ourselves, what we control is very near and dear to me, and pretty passionate about it. Sometimes results are not in your favor, but then, as Mahendra Singh Dhoni calls it, I'm a big cricket fan. Worry about controllables. Don't worry about things that you can't control. How to conduct a journey for a goal is my controllable. I can do this in a certain way. Being very precise about it is in my control. So setback for me sometimes is not doing that journey. And by the way, it happens sometimes because you're multitasking across many things. Situations happen, you are crunched on time. Those to me are setbacks. Winning or losing, getting something or not getting something, it's a data point. It happens next morning, it's a fresh start. So to be able to define the goal for you creates the difference between a setback versus I learned something new, let's move on. And we run large business, we get into this situation almost every single day. Results are not in our favor. We are in a pretty competitive world. We're in a pretty competitive world even at home. You get judged about everything. So you can control the journey. If I'm on a tennis court with my daughter, I'm controlling every single part of what I'm doing with her. And then there is no, setback about we have not spent quality time together. When we are working on a pursuit or a deal or working on a deliverable for a client, we just worry about that moment, that journey that we can control. Someone being happy and happy, it's a matter of time. It's a data point that we look back and reflect on.
Yeah. So focusing on the process, which is in your control, and staying in the present so that you can actually predict the ball which is coming next.
Absolutely.
Okay,
there is the saying about, can you see the bend in the corner? Can you see not the corner, but what's behind the corner? And to be able to anticipate that, it's your controllable. Sometime if you can do that, the journey becomes far more easier, and then you don't get setbacks. And there are a lot of books that got published on that subject of where you can see beyond the bend, beyond what you can see, to be able to anticipate that makes it a very different outcome.
This is very good advice, because often I see, as I coach people, I see that they are so worried about, they're always in their head about, what if I don't get my goal? What if I don't get my goal? But what actually is in their control is the process, is their presence, and is their ability to look beyond the bend.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I love sports. I play tennis, and many years ago, we were on a court, and the court adjacent to us had one trainer, and his student didn't show up. So we were three, four of us, we play for recreation. So this coach, this gentleman, reached out across the court to us and say, "I am free if you guys want to play with me. At least, I'll do something meaningful in the next 1 hour." So two of us went and played with him, and he was one guy on the other side of the court. It was two of us on this side of the court. He was a pretty reputed coach in that circuit, but very aged person, at least 20 years older than us. So we felt that we will have an easy game, and we had such a hard time taking any point from this gentleman. So obviously we enjoyed every moment about it. It was not about winning or losing, but we just felt that how would somebody with that age is able to, and we are fairly athletic on court. So once we finished, we spoke to him, and he said the biggest difference was you are hitting the ball you're getting. I was hitting for the ball that I'm going to get when you return me the ball. What a fantastic way of describing this concept of can you see beyond the bend.
Right.
And applying that in tennis was a life learning moment for us that day, because think about it, we do that every single day. When we put a price to a deal, when we ask somebody to take a KPI, it's about just that result. It's not about what next. And to be able to give a thought a little bit about what's next changes your perspective completely. So sometimes you learn life lessons on places where you don't expect to be learned.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
All right. So, when you hire professionals for your team, what do you look for in them beyond their hard skills?
See, we are in an industry where skills refresh every 5 years. What we learned in the college almost has nothing to do with what's there today. And then we are in the middle of that industry, as information technology, in financial services particularly. But three or four things always remain a constant. Number one, the ability to have passion for what you do is always a constant. Whether you're passionate about a sport, whether you're passionate about singing, whether you're passionate about gardening, you can teach people skills, you can't teach them passion. So I personally look for passion. Passion can be found in many different ways. Do you genuinely like what you're doing, or you pretend to like what you're doing? It's a very easy thing to find out. If somebody asks me to write a PowerPoint or to create a code or to create a narrative or a storyline, I'll do that in the middle of the night, and I'll do that 48 hours in a stretch because it's so enjoyable. Are people authentically and genuinely liking what they're doing is what I find for when we hire. And it doesn't have to be the area for which we are hiring them. Because if you're passionate, you will find the liking no matter what. We've had cases where we've hired people who told me on day one of the interview that I don't know nothing about what you're asking me to do, but I can do A, B, C, and D. I look for that. Second, it is absolutely important to bring people who thinks differently. Sometimes I tell this to our teams and my colleagues all the time that when I'm not doing engineering, I'm doing painting, I'm doing singing, I'm a very creative person. That creativeness helps you look at things that most people will not look at if they're engineers, and vice versa. So we have had cases where some of our stakeholders, some of our clients, some of my personal friends bring a perspective that just changes the nature of the game. There was this book, if you would have read, by Jim Collins, called Good to Great, and it's sort of always about aligned people in a bus, but need not align in the sense that they know where they need to go. But everybody has a different background, different perspective. The only commonality is that they're on a bus together. They're on a mission together, but their skills are different, their approach is different, their mindset are different. What that creates is phenomenal in every single case. I'll give an example which is very recent. There is a game called Candy Crush. I'm sure you would have come across it. We all played Candy Crush. It was built on a platform called Unity. Unity is almost like an engine through which you can produce games like Candy Crush. So in our organization, we acquired some professional services arm of Unity, which is a gaming organization. And we had a very serious financial services, cloud, IT type work. Very serious, people call it complex. Couple of individuals who never wrote a single line of code in their life got inspired from this Unity because they all played Candy Crush when they were in the college. And they said, I love this graphics. I love how Candy Crush is so colorful. Can I create something with it? So they created a 3D model of our office where we work in New York City. And they said, if there was a water leak that ever happens, or if there's a fire that ever happens, can I simulate that in that nice graphical interface? And if I can simulate that, can I start listing things that are catching fire or getting flooded? And through that, can I actually write an insurance for this?
Wow.
The ability for somebody to take that one thing they liked when they were in their college called Candy Crush, look beyond that and say, I love this graphical interface, and then connect that dot to a very serious business called insurance and to create a prototype. To me, that's invaluable. I look for those moments. And therefore, when you have people who think differently, they will surprise you every single time. So my guidance to all the teams often is obviously take charge, but look to become uncomfortable. Ask questions which are not the normal questions, which are not straight line questions, and encourage people around you to ask those questions. It's not an outlier, it's actually the right thing to do. So, and there are so many examples that happen in everyday life where somebody just brings a perspective that is so fresh, so unique, and it's not a straight line thing. I cherish those moments personally, and I always tell my middle level management people and my colleagues, find such gems who are not like you, who are fundamentally different. Sometimes they may bring some dumb ideas, that's fine. But most of the time, there is a lot of merit to what gets told and what gets brought to the table.
Yeah, and how do you figure that out in an interview process?
You don't. You just look for genuine passion and genuine authentic details of somebody. For example, you know, it is so particular. Somebody tells me I like gardening. Perfect. What kind of gardening do you like? And can we talk about that for next 1 hour? Nothing else. Just that conversation will tell you very assertively whether the individual really likes what they say they like, or they are having a mask where they want you to hear a few things which they think you may like. And it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. What we generally do is we don't spend that half an hour on that topic. um, the story goes like this, right? One of the coaches, when I was learning tennis, the most important thing I learned when I learned tennis was the size of the ball, and you have to put your thumb on the ball. In no tennis classes, most people will not tell you to put your thumb on the ball, and that one thing makes the direction every time accurate. I look for those signals in interviews from people who will go to that third, fourth, eighth level of detail. And it doesn't have to be computer science, it doesn't have to be financial services. It just has to be the thing they like. And if they like it, they will know almost every level of detail about it. I look for those people. And they will learn computer science, they will learn cloud, they will learn financial services, we'll teach them, things happen.
When I listen to you, you're talking about passion, you're talking about diversity and different perspectives, but the underlying theme continues to be curiosity. which of course passion brings and diversity brings, and which is what you use to even gauge what somebody brings onto the table and create psychological safety, because without that, nobody will experiment.
Yes, it's our job to give people that bus in which they feel comfortable, even though they are with people that are not like them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the bus will meet unexpected outcomes. That's okay. As far as we are able to give them that comfort, they don't worry about it. We are there to protect their back. They are comfortable with that fact. Life is usually very good.
Very interesting. Thank you. All right. So, Ravi, I coach mid-career professionals, and we keep telling them, take charge of your career, take charge of your career, own your career. What are some of the actions that people can take that amount to taking charge of their career?
Um, in my book, it's very simple. Whatever you are doing today, are you ready to stop that tomorrow and do something else dramatically different?
Mhm.
So it's again, I those who work with me, I give a lot of examples, because and these are from very day-to-day life incidents. So if you look at the linear progression of a sports person, and I often give sports examples. If you look at the linear progression of a sports person, what you'll realize is every now and then there will be some players who have done exponentially well. So which is almost like a non-linear growth. And there are some many, not some, there are many CEOs and CXOs who have a very stable growth trajectory. Um, the difference between the two is the sports people who have taken an abnormal progression in their career and become enormously successful. 100% of them will have two things in common. They will be absolutely passionate about what they do, and there will be someone to coach them. There will be some mentor, some guide, somebody showing them direction. Conversely, CEOs, CXOs who have had a very nice linear progression, in most cases may not have a coach, may not have that direction, but they are just inherently bright and then so they're on a linear journey. I request people to find that non-linear pattern. And for that, I tell them, tomorrow you wake up and let's say you're running a 2000 people group or you are the finest architect in your trade. And tomorrow you are asked to do not what you do today. How will you feel about it? Will you be okay to become that uncomfortable? Will you be okay to learn more? Will you have the curiosity to say, okay, let me see how I can apply what I know into this because this is not something I would have done ever. To me, that's taking charge of your career. That is taking charge of the career does not mean that I'll take more responsibility, I have higher KPIs, have more goals. And to me, taking charge of the career is, can you become uncomfortable? Are you okay to have somebody to guide you as a coach? Are you at ease with the fact that somebody knows more than you and they can coach you? And are you comfortable to become uncomfortable? To me, that is taking charge of career because then magic will happen. Otherwise, it's going to be, straight line, sometime linear growth. There won't be any non-linear patterns in the growth.
Actually, in today's world, that particular aspect that you're talking about, that leads to so much stress about, hey, I know this and I have hit the ceiling in this skill set. Where do I go now?
Yeah.
But if you're comfortable with putting yourself absolutely out of your comfort zone, so many doors can open.
Yeah, you are in the way of your own growth because you feel that you know this and you can only do this on top of what you know. What if I change the playing field? What if you are into a different playing field where what you know is no longer advantage or a differentiation? The fact that you're willing to start in a different playing field, which may be a level up playing field altogether, um, it's fascinating. But most people have, inertia to not take that trajectory and try to find the max and maximize the playing field they are on. They will get plateaued. They will get stagnated. It's just so natural.
That's amazing advice, Ravi. I'm sure my audience will benefit immensely from it. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope
Sure.
you will come again and tell more interesting stories. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I hope that you enjoyed so many stories that Ravi told today. They were so insightful. I found them extremely interesting. And please share what was your personal takeaway from these stories, and what are the other questions that we can help answer for you. Thank you for listening in, and thank you, Ravi, once again.
Thank you, Neelima.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.